Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We're with Liberty Lass, who needs 2.5 million levels to get from 48 to level 49, which is like the last level. And we're working on a story arc for Maria Jenkins, which you probably haven't seen the whole thing of because I've made a couple recordings I haven't really been happy with. So we're going to just focus on what's going on here. I will chat about some things. I'm not going to really try to rant about anything. Um, but we're mostly going to focus on City of Heroes and talk about that and not really rant about stuff outside the game because I really don't have anything. And I think part of the problem is I didn't really have anything to rant about, and so I was reaching and ended up going on these long, rambling discussions of stuff that isn't all that interesting, and I was trying to make it interesting. That's sort of silly. So this is a mission I don't love. We have an NPC with us. I don't enjoy that, but we should be all right. There is an elite boss in here. We got to make sure. I could try to. I didn't think about it. I got to try to pick up some better inspirations. Well, hopefully we'll fill in what we need as we go, and Penelope will be helping us, so we should probably be all right. Um, Remember, we do have our second ATO set already slotted in, so we got 3 total sets on this character. I'd actually like to get her another one, hopefully before level 49, and a couple more by 50. I mean, I'd like to have all of her sets in by 50, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. Mostly because so much of the material is so ridiculously expensive, including um, some of the enhancements, some of the recipes, and also some of the materials for making the recipes if they're considered like, really good ones, and I just want something decent, and I don't realize they're considered good, that like for some reason having to do with PvP or whatever, then things get really expensive very quickly for what to me is no good reason since I don't do PvP. But in any case, we're going to need to defeat Madame Mayhem and Mother Mayhem and Malaise. And I don't remember if we're going to have to fight them both at the same time or different times. It's been a while since I've done this mission. We're going to leave the orange in here until we get enough purples. When we have full purples, I guess what we'll do is I'll put the orange up here. And when we have a full set of purples, then we'll use the orange because we don't really need sturdies. You can see that these guys are harming our defense pretty badly. So they're debuffing it. It's not just that it's -7, right? If you wait until the debuff ends, which this is one of the things I really don't like in City of Heroes is that the villain, so it's -7 from +8 to -15. The villain debuffs last so much longer than the hero debuffs. It's not even like they have triple SO'd the duration on it. They've like doubled that, right? So their duration lasts like twice as long as a player character could do, even if they have a full set of SOs. So it's almost like they've given the villains enhancement sets, but not for everything, just for debuff powers and holds and stuff like that. The duration, right? Not the actual effect of it. Well, I don't know. Sometimes the effect too. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I feel like there's another way to go here, and I'm missing it. What's going on? Why can I not get through here? What's going on here? Alright, let's go south. Oh, okay, over... No, not over there. Over here. Alright. There, this is what we're looking for. Okay. Don't know what we're going to find here. I don't know if there's any glowies to click on, but actually what I was trying to do... I hate these things. What I'm trying to do is just look for enemies to fight so that I can try and get another couple purples. So we'll just wander along here. Here we go. Okay. So anyway, one of the things I did want to mention, I got this, I don't know, it's a brilliant idea, but at least a good idea. over the vacation when I was visiting my sister and my nephew. So I tried back when I was still running Dungeons and Dragons. I had the D&D starter set, which is actually absolutely terrible for teaching people Dungeons and Dragons. Um, and because it doesn't have a reduced number of rules, right? What they do is they only give you the rules for certain classes, right? Fighter, magic user, whatever, fighter, wizard, cleric, and rogue, I guess. But those some of those classes can be very complicated, especially the magic users, the wizards, and even clerics as well. They they limit which subclasses you can be, but you still have to deal with subclasses. This is the entrance. And hang on, where are we going? We're going up there. Okay. And like all the full rules are kind of there, um, as opposed to like the basic set of D&D where race was class, so you didn't have to deal with both race and class. And they just had many. They just reduced like what rules you had to take into account, so that when you started playing AD&D, there were all these extra rules like multi-classing and stuff that did not exist in the basic set. Now they don't have multi-classing and feats, I guess. They don't have the optional rules in there. But I I made a huge mistake with him, right? First of all was doing that. I should have actually gotten my hands on the basic set from DM's Guild or something and um, try to teach him that, so that like what does he know about which edition of D&D, right? And that's just so much easier to learn than 5th edition, which is brutally hard to learn when you've never played D&D at all, right? They really do very little to help you learn how to play a role-playing game. It's very complicated, even in the starter set. And honestly, I don't know how a beginning GM would run the Lost Mine of Phandelver. It's, to me, I found it, as an experienced GM, hard to read, hard to follow, and I never even would have attempted to run it. And that's actually one of the easier adventures to run. We've talked about how the published adventures often, I hate this stuff, the published adventures are often very hard to run. But, so the other mistake I made, though, was I had him make up his own character. And we sat there for like an hour as I explained everything and let him make the decisions of what to do to make up his character. And I shouldn't have done that. I should have just given him a pre-generated character. Here's a cleric, play it. Right? He made up a halfling cleric named Cornelius. It was kind of cool. You know, he made all the decisions. He made some good decisions. And by the time we were done, it had been like an hour and 20 minutes and he was bored. And I don't think he understands why I think the game is fun. So that was a huge mistake. There's Malay. She's an elite boss. We don't have enough purples. We're just going to have to do the best we can with this. And I might have to run out. Oh yeah, of course she's aggroing her because she's an idiot. They really do make the NPCs be like the guy that screams Leroy Jenkins in that video. I mean, really, seriously? While I'm trying to put my buffs up, she just runs over and attacks. Anyway, it was a huge mistake. I should have taken a pre-gen character, come up with a really quick adventure in basic set, just Caves of Chaos, go through Cave A and fight kobolds, just to show them what the game is like. And it was a huge mistake on my part not to do it that way. And so he was bored. Now he's older, he's 15, he has no interest in role-playing games. And that's my fault, right? Because I didn't do the right thing. But the younger kid is now 11. He just turned 11. He just had his birthday. And he's super interested in horror. He loves horror. And so I realized as I was talking to him, I was somehow or other I started describing Deadlands to him. And he got really interested in it. And I realized this is the kid I should have appealed to. Now, he was only like 7 or 8 when I tried to teach my older nephew, who was like 11 at the time, D&D. But the littler one, Sean is his name, he's, like I said, he's in 6th grade now. He's 11. He just had his birthday. He's going into 6th grade. And I was like, he's old enough to learn this. Some of my friends started learning basic set. He's old enough to learn it, and Savage Worlds is so much easier of a game. Whatever your stat is, it's the dice, and you just roll that stat. Is this mayhem? Um. Oh, please do not aggro to her now. I have to wait until this thing um, comes back. So, guys, I'm not gonna worry about the death buffs. We'll try to do it without. I'm gonna pause it here, and I'll tell you about the story with my nephew when we come back. So, I'll be back in about 3 minutes. Okay, folks, we are back and ready to fight Madam Mayhem, or yeah, Mother Mayhem. Sorry, I'm gonna try to do some extra damage and try to hit her as hard as possible, so that we don't have to stand in against her too long. Penelope will come or not as she wishes. And we are ready to go here. She has 5,000 some hundred hit points. I have about 2,000. Penelope has about 2,600. So combined, Penelope and I have about the same amount of hit points as Mother Mayhem. Which I guess is why they've given you Penelope as a partner. So that you can kind of team up against her and hopefully win. And there we go. We got it. Didn't even need the purples. Alright, so back to my nephew. He loves horror. I was telling you about Deadlands, and I was telling you about like the villain, the evil tree in the hard Headstone Hill. And he was like coming up with ideas. Oh, maybe this and maybe that. Maybe you can have the bad guy do this. And I was like, gee, I should have asked him for advice on how to do it. He's like, he knows more about horror than I do because he loves horror, even though he's not allowed to read or watch most of it. Yet he still loves enough of it. He was talking about some thing game, like horror game called Five Nights at Freddy's, and I guess they made a movie out of it. And he really liked the movie, and that's like one of his favorite things. And so as I was talking to him, I said to him, you know what, Sean, when I come back here for Christmas, I'm going to bring Deadlands and I'm going to teach you Deadlands. He was all excited. He's actually interested in it, whereas my older nephew wasn't interested. And then as I was thinking about it, and I mentioned this to him right before I left, that's the wrong person. There we go. Maria. I mentioned this to him right before I left, but I didn't have a chance to really explain in detail what I was talking about. But uh, there's a new setting in Savage Worlds called Pine Box Middle School, and it's basically the sequel to East Texas University. And honestly, I was pretty unhappy about it when they announced it because I think they did this instead of making a Savage Worlds Adventure Edition version of ETU, because that was put out right at the end of Savage Worlds Deluxe's run. They made Pine Box Middle School. It's in Pine Box, Texas. It's in the same town as ETU, but instead of playing college students, you're playing 6th to 8th graders. And I guess, I don't know the details, but my guess is each grade is a rank or something like that. So 6th grade is novice rank, 7th grade is seasoned rank, 8th grade is veteran rank or whatever. And you get an advance every quarter, kind of the way you get advances at midterms and finals in ETU. That's my guess. But instead of playing college students, you're playing 6th to 8th graders. And it's like, I never even suggested it to my gaming group because I personally am not interested in playing a 6th grader. However, my 6th grader nephew very well might be. Hey, you stole my color scheme. Who looks more... Okay, right here. Let's pose. Who has a better red, white, and blue color scheme? Me or Ms. Liberty? I think Liberty Lass with the stars is better. But you guys decide. Anyway, so I thought, wait a minute, he's just going into 6th grade. He's going to be in 6th to 8th grade over the next 3 years. This might be a perfect way to get that nephew, at least, interested in role-playing games. And I get him into Savage Worlds, which is a lot easier to deal with than Dungeons and Dragons. Much less complicated to make up a character. And I'm not going to have him create characters, right? I am not doing that. What I'm going to do is they have a bunch of pre-made archetypes, right? They like the science nerd, the gamer, the artist, etc. You know, the kid who likes art, etc. And So they have these like archetype cards, and I'm just gonna lay out the archetype cards and say pick one, make a name for your character, and play this character, right? And so the whole idea is just to get them used to and interested, and I'm going to make my older nephew play it with us. He's going to have to. I'm going to demand, and I'm going to see if I get my sister to do it too. And just everybody pick a character. You know, my one nephew is a Boy Scout, and one of the archetypes is a Scout, right? They call Woodland Scout or something, right? Because they don't want to get, you know, sued for using the Boy Scouts, but it's the same basic concept. So while my nephew, the older nephew, is a Boy Scout, he might like that. And the younger one is interested in art and stuff, so he might want to play an artist. Now, one of the things I do have to explain to them is you're not playing yourself, right? You're playing a character, an invention, and I want to make sure of that. But people mostly in role-playing games end up playing themselves anyway, right? Even the new girl who plays with us, and she's watched a bunch of ETU, and she's watched some Deadlands now, and she's seen how other people role-play. She's mostly playing herself most of the time. She doesn't. I know she doesn't think she is, but she kind of is. And if you look at her first character, the person in real life is a naturalist, right? She studies animals like small mammals and birds in the woods. She is very short. She's like under 5 feet tall, and she has long blonde hair. And she made up a gnome, a forest gnome. As soon as I saw forest gnomes in the book, I was like, she's going to want to make up a forest gnome. She made up a forest gnome who is a short little character with blonde hair. And why does she like forest gnomes? Because they have little pet animals and they can talk to squirrels and birds and stuff, right? Which she virtually can do. She studies them and she knows them really well. Where did Miss Liberty get to? Oh. So she was basically playing herself, right? She played a character that resonated with her. So sixth grader playing himself, yeah, that'll resonate with him. And it's horror. He loves horror, so it's. I mean, he's gonna love. I think he's gonna love this. It's basically a bunch of sixth graders investigating vampires and werewolves and evil horror things, and like I could see my nephew being all over that. And so, what is the point of this part of this map? Um, am I missing something here? We got to go straight north. So I could totally see him enjoying that, and so I went online. The box set of Pine Box Middle School is available. It's got everything in it. I think they'll like the physical bennies. I think they will like the dice. I'm probably going to buy some extra sets of specifically Pine Box dice, even though they're 15 bucks each, which is ridiculously expensive for plastic dice. I mean, I've bought multiple sets of them for that price in the past. And you don't, I mean, you don't have to use it. I have tons of extra dice I could use. But I think I will, like, buy those and maybe leave the dice with them. Heck, if they like the game, I might leave the box set with them. I'm going to bring my old Savage Worlds Adventure Edition rules. But I'm not going to, like, teach them the rules. I'm going to say, pick a character that you like. I'm going to explain what edges and hindrances and traits are very quickly. I'm going to say, okay, let's play. Right? I'm going to just take an adventure from the book or make my own. And let's just play, and I'll explain it to you as we go. Tell me what you want your character to do, and I'll tell you how to do it. And try to get them into the story within like the first 20 minutes, right? So that we're playing the story rather than the game, you know, and then get them into the rules as we play, right? So, okay, it's combat. So the way combat works is I deal out these action cards, and the highest card wins, and if you get a joker, everybody gets a Benny and you get to go first and you get +2 to everything you do, right? Or maybe not even tell them that, just wait till the Joker comes up and go, Joker! Okay, here's what happens when you get a Joker. One of the reasons I've never tried teaching a role-playing game this way, but I'm not going to worry about it with my nephews, is because you're revealing the rules to the players little by little. Like, I don't tell them what a Joker is till it comes up and they say, oh, a Joker, everybody gets a Benny and you get +2 to everything you do. It can sometimes maybe seem like the GM is just making stuff up. You know what I mean? Just making rules up as he goes. And so I was thinking I'd like maybe give them a little index card with the basics of combat. Like you can take up to 3 actions per turn. If you take one action, you roll the dice as normal. If you take two actions, you roll -2 to everything you do. If you take three actions, it's -4 to everything you do, so that they see that it's already written down when I tell them. Do you believe, with this running, I have a 9% chance to hit this guy? And the problem is, she's next to me, right? And so he's getting the buff from both of us, because that's the way invincibility works. So yeah, so I'm it's expensive. It's like over $100, but I'm toying with, I'm willing to invest the money if I can get my younger nephew interested in role-playing games like tabletop. He thought it was a video game, right? Like when I was describing it to him, he's like, "Well, he like, what do you mean you make it up? It's not a video game?" No, you use your imagination. And all right, I'm leaving. You can fight him. Um, and so it was, he can't really picture it. And so I want him to see what it's like, and I want to see if he enjoys it, and if he does, maybe I'll leave the books with them. I don't know if I can leave my Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. I might be able to, because I'm getting another copy. I ordered the anniversary version of it, so when I get that copy, I can let him have the old one, right? Because the old one's got some things in it that have been corrected. I'm not going to worry about that. But there's got like a GM screen and all that stuff in it, and the rule books for Pine Box. So, like, I'm hoping I can what I would love to do is get my youngest nephew interested. The older one's probably not going to care. I think he'll play with us because I ask him to for one shot, and maybe my sister will play with us just for a one shot. But it's unlikely. I'm just gonna leave these guys. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna just keep fighting at 9% to hit. I'm just gonna ignore them. They're not part of the mission, right? The only thing we have to do is find this guy. We're going the wrong way, I think, though, because no, I have no idea where this guy is. I don't think we want to go back up, though. Unless he's down this way? I don't know. By the way, I put thumbs in the map to just remind myself of where I haven't gone yet. If I feel like something might be somewhere, because I'll get lost. At any rate, my hope. I want to play with them, yes, but my real hope is that the older one will, or the younger one will like it enough. Bye. Yeah, I'm going away. Wait, is that Infernal? Ho ho, wait, hang on. Don't want to go over there yet. My hope is that the younger one will like it enough that he will play it with his friends. That he'll start getting into it with his friends. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I hate her. She is going to aggro him. There's 2 elite bosses over there. Don't. Right, you can do what you want, honey. I'm sweeping the room. Like, if she's gonna aggro him, let her. She's gonna die. I don't care. Like, I hate it when the NPCs are so stupid. And it really almost seems... So they put the NPC in there to help you? No, the NPC just hurts you. Right? Can we get her over here? She's unaffected by anything. Can I get her over here? Yeah, come here. That's what we want. Okay. Well, Miss Liberty, you didn't die. I'm surprised. got her. So, yeah, what I'm hoping... Are you kidding me? Unaffected, unaffected. Yes, we at City of Heroes, in designing the upper level stuff, did exactly what Statesman said and made him as annoying as possible. Not hard, just annoying. Alright, now Infernal is going to probably be hard. But we've got our vulnerability going, so our strength of will, so do the best we can. Haven't I fought him before? How many times do I have to fight this guy? Anyway. So yeah, what I'm hoping is that my nephew will take enough liking to it that that he'll try to play with his friends, and maybe he'll be the GM or something, and he can actually, you know, get him playing role-playing games. And there we go. We took out Infernal. Can I get myself organized here? And that is this mission done. So yeah, have you guys ever tried to teach a somebody young who's never played role-playing games before, role-playing games, and how have you done it? I definitely think it'll be better to just start with pre-made characters and teach them with a short adventure rather than to try and teach them all the rules first. Every time I've ever taught anybody, it's always been here are all the rules first. Champions, I remember we helped the one guy make up characters, and it's so hard, right? We tried to say, well, just tell us what you want, and we'll make up the character for you. But each power we came up with, well, how does that one work? How does that one work? And we're telling them how 80 different powers work in champions. It's really better to start with a pre-made character and just play, I think. But I've never done it before, so we'll have to see. All right, so get Positron out of Dominatrix and Marauders. Clutches. How we've been doing on time. We're 26 minutes. I think, guys, this will be a short episode, and we're going to stop here. Should we? Or should we keep going? Let's do it. Let's do it. But we do have to make sure we have enough insps of the right sort. We're going to need defenses. And we might have to leave this mission because Dominatrix, my memory is very difficult. And then Marauder's going to be hard too. And so these are really tough elite bosses, and they're going to be like level 51 or whatever. So I think it's probably... I'm probably going to have to use all my inspirations to beat Dominatrix, and then I'm going to need... I think you fight her first, and then I'm going to need to go out and get more before I fight Marauder. So, by the way, one of the huge differences in old City of Heroes, before you could set the mission difficulty and you were fighting a lot of whites and yellows, at this level it's like trivial. One of the big differences is I never used inspirations, right? Whereas when you've got them on +2 or 3, you need inspirations against the bosses and the elite bosses, and you can eventually run out. It's one of the main differences, right? That you actually have to use the inspirations. And if you look back to when you play City of Heroes, at least the way I do it without doing any weird, shenanigans with trying to do enhancement sets at level 10 and stuff. If you're just using DOs and SOs at the low levels, and before you get to like level 25 or so, when you fight bosses, you pretty much need inspirations all the time, right? You're going to need inspirations to beat most bosses and every elite boss, even when they're +0 to you, right? When they're orange or red to you instead of purple. But if you're fighting deep purple bosses and especially elite bosses, then you definitely need inspirations, even at the higher levels. But at low levels, you don't. But you need inspirations when they're purple. But if these guys are 51, if they were level 48, the elite bosses, I might not even need inspirations against them, is what I'm trying to say. Right? You use a lot more inspirations when you're fighting guys that are a lot higher level than you, because the way the game is tuned, you need inspirations. You need inspirations to fight bosses at level 10, but you don't really need them if they're +0 to you. You don't really need them at level like 25 or 30, 40. So I remember having a character, like I had a very specific set of inspirations that I used to keep. It was very close to this with my first martial arts super reflex scrapper, and um, once I got past the, low 30s, I think, I almost never used them except against archvillains. They didn't have elite bosses yet, and regular bosses just didn't require it. If I remember right, Dominatrix is in one of the hallways. Or at least she can spawn in one of the hallways, if I remember correctly. I was talking to one of my friends. He was saying that he's had a lot of trouble keeping his role-playing game groups going, and he's got an AD&D group that he runs, I think 2 5e groups that he's in, and then a Pathfinder 2 group that he's in. And, or maybe he runs I think he runs a 5e group, plays in a 5e group, runs a Pathfinder group, plays in a Pathfinder group and runs an AD&D group. So he plays in 2 and he runs 2. And he was on the D&D Beyond forums, and he made some sort of a truthful but uncomfortable statement that they didn't like. So he got banned again, and then of course he flamed the developer, the moderator who banned him, who's a jerk. And yeah, he's very happy with the ban trigger on everybody, and also giving people warnings. And like, he's given the one guy who never posts anything that should be moderated a bunch of warnings. And I call this particular moderator to them the ban bunny, because he's just always hopping around from thread to thread banning people. And the other guy, once he found out I called him that, started calling him Ban Bun. So we call him Ban Bun now. So this Ban Bunny guy moderated this friend of mine yet again on his like 3rd or 4th account, because multiple of his accounts have been banned. Now, let's keep in mind what this friend of mine is doing is technically against the forum rules. Once you've been banned, you're not supposed to use alternate email accounts to make up new accounts and circumvent a ban, right? That's true in any forum. I don't really care that he's doing this, because I think he's been banned for unfair reasons. But he got another disciplinary action, and he was literally for stating an uncomfortable truth that Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to be stated, right? And I'll be fair, there is a line of reasoning that says, well, Wizards of the Coast owns the forums. They're under no obligation. It's not freedom of speech, right? They're not the government. They're under no obligation to allow you to use their forum that they pay for with their money to badmouth them. However, a forum is only as useful as the freedom of the conversation that happens on it. If you keep banning stuff, the forum is not useful. And I think the evidence that that's happened in the D&D Beyond forum is that there's the activity on it. There's like 10 million registered users or something, and the activity on it is anemic for the number of users it has. And it's pretty clear that, 9,995,000 people do not even bother with that forum. And some of it is because it's utterly useless. You can get help there, legit help, if you really need help, like understanding a rule. But that's not what most of the posts used to be. Most of the posts were vigorous debate and discussion. There's Dominatrix. So let's hit pop stuff. She is in a hallway, as I predicted. Alright, now we're ready to fight her. So, anyway, he got banned from that, and can't post there anymore. And then something weird happened in his 1D&D, his 5e group, where one of the players quit because he felt like the loot wasn't being shared enough and the spotlight wasn't being shared enough. Surprised everybody, apparently. So, anyway, he was talking about this, and he was saying, oh, well, there's a group of people who might be interested in 5e, and I'm going to teach them. And I said to him, why are you wasting your time with 5th edition? You know that they're changing the game in ways you hate. I mean, that's partly why he was banned, right? Because he was calling out the changes that have been previewed in the new 6th edition. I'm calling it 6th edition because I don't know what else to call it. The new version of D&D. he hates almost every change they've made. He was calling it out. He said it makes the game more complicated. It's hurting new players. It's hurting GMs because it's now the GMs have more complication to deal with. And he was banned for saying it, right? Because he's a negative Nelly or whatever you want to call it, right? He's a Debbie Downer. Even though there's no actual rules on the forums that say you can't be a Debbie Downer, they banned him for non-constructive posting. Non-constructive being it says something negative about, the new version. So, he said, I said, why are you even doing this, right? Why are you continuing to beat your head into the brick wall of D&D 5th and 6th edition when you know they are not making that game for you anymore, right? They're there's a different target audience of 5th edition D&D than there used to be. Am I being held? I'm being slowed badly. Um, there's a different target audience for the game now. And that's just the reality of Wizards of the Coast's marketing. And it's really interesting. One of the video channels I watched just put out a video showing some of the artwork, which is very different style than it used to be, and some of the rules, talking about some of the rules, and said, who is D&D even for anymore? And he said, it doesn't seem like they're making it for the people who used to like D&D, right? They're making it for people who didn't used to like D&D. And he said they're making it for the theater kids and the baristas in Seattle and all these people who never used to play D&D, and they're not really making it for the hardcore gamers who used to play it in the past. And so I posted this, and of course this friend of mine grumbled. He's like, this is, he's frustrated. I used to like this game, and it used to be made for him, right? For someone with his interests and preferences, and now he's been kicked out of gaming groups for trying to play and treat D&D the old way, the way it used to be played, and for saying this isn't how the rules work, or whatever. And he's like, he literally, somebody was telling him they did something in AD&D, and he pulled out the AD&D book from the shelf in the game cafe and said, open to the spell the guy said. And it's like, this is literally, it says in the rule book here, you cannot do this with that spell. It literally says that. It's not one of these rules where it doesn't say what you can do and the GM makes a ruling. It literally says in the rule, you cannot use this spell to do this. And you did it anyway, and he was talking about how great it was. He's like, you guys broke the rules. And they kicked him out of the game group. You're no fun, right? Stop telling people how to play D&D. And so, well, D&D used to be for the people who followed the rules. That's not to say we all followed every rule, right? But we mostly followed the rules. And we certainly didn't do things where it says explicitly in the rules you cannot do that. And so he's frustrated. And I said, you have to understand, and this video makes this point, the target audience of Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast's target audience for D&D, is not D&D players anymore, like the old school D&D players anymore. There aren't enough of us. And Wizards of the Coast has calculated that they will make a lot more money by appealing to a wider audience that never used to like D&D and wouldn't like it the way it was always played, right? Remember, these are people who had a chance to play Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s and opted not to play it. And Wizards of the Coast has said, well, why didn't they play it? Well, because it was too this and not enough that. And so let's make a game that plays the way the people who don't play it would like to play it, and we'll get a new, bigger audience, right? If there are 10 times or 20 times as many of the people who didn't used to like D&D as there are people who like D&D, then if they can appeal to the people who didn't like it, they'll make a lot more money. Now, it's a big risk because lots of organizations have tried to do this in the past with their intellectual property and fallen on their face, right? Star Wars Galaxies, I always talk about this, tried it, right? There were a million people playing World of Warcraft and only 200,000 playing Star Wars Galaxies, and they said, let's change Star Wars Galaxies to play more like World of Warcraft. They knew when they made that decision that the people who liked Star Wars Galaxies weren't going to like the change, because if we liked World of Warcraft, we would have been playing it, right? We like the old way Star Wars Galaxies was. There's Marauder. Let's check the rest of the room out. And so, there's nobody else around him. Let's beat these guys up. So, so they changed it. They made Star Wars Galaxies into basically what this friend of mine said. They wowed it up, right? And she quit. I quit. A bunch of people quit because we wanted to play Star Wars Galaxies, which was a skill, not a level-based game. We wanted to play a game that had dancers and entertainers in it, and battle fatigue, and all the stuff that came with the original game. And so when they turned it into World of Warcraft with classes and levels, and they made it into much more of a traditional MMO rather than the kind of unusual way that Star Wars Galaxies had been set up as a game, we all left, right? The intention of like they knew we were going to leave, right? The developers in the past, and some of the developers said, we told the bigwigs at Sony Online Entertainment, we told them this is going to cost you 2/3 to 3/4 of the existing base. And they said yes, but there are 1.8 million other people out there who would play our game if it was only more like World of Warcraft. So they thought. So they turned it into World of Warcraft, and 150,000 out of the 200,000 people left. The player base went down to 50,000, and no World of Warcraft players, I mean, I'm sure a few did, but none to speak of, played Star Wars Galaxies because it wasn't executed as well as World of Warcraft. It didn't have all the features of World of Warcraft because they were basically starting from scratch. It had all of this legacy crap in it from the old game, and it never really worked as a WoW clone, right? And so they tried to WoW it up, and it bombed. And we've seen this happen with movies and TV shows and stuff too, where they have a small niche audience. They decide we're going to try to appeal to the larger audience by making it more generic, right? More mass appeal. They lose the niche audience and they don't get the mass appeal. It's risky. Now, so far, what they're doing has worked. They've made a lot of money and they've sold a lot of games. So, we'll see what happens. But it's risky. And one of the issues they have, and this is something that a lot of other companies for a lot of other intellectual properties have found, is yes, you can get that initial this quarter, this year boost to your sales for appealing to mass audiences because there are a lot more of them and they'll go ahead and buy all that stuff initially. But the mass audience has no staying power. They're fickle, right? They go to whatever is the next big thing, right? Whereas the nerds in the gaming group, right, or the Star Wars Galaxies fans, yeah, they only had 200,000 of the original. It went up to like 350,000. It fell down to like 215,000 or something like that. Fell down to like 180, 190, and they're like, we're down to only 60% of the users we used to have, and we're not getting new people. They're all going to World of Warcraft. We need an infusion of new players, right? And that's a small niche, right? But that was a small loyal niche that was paying them money, and they were making enough money to run the game indefinitely, right? And then we have to find Positron now. And there he is. Positron, let's go. I'm Liberty Lass. What are you doing? Oh, this isn't Positron. So we're going to have to rescue Positron in the next episode. So yeah, you might make that initial infusion, but the loyal people, right, the people who played Star Wars Galaxies for 2.5 years or something from launch day, and I started about a month after launch, those guys were still in the game, right? 150,000 of them, they would have been there. As one of my friends said, I'll be here until they turn off the lights and put the chairs up on the table and lock the door. And she was there even after they wowed it up. But most of the rest of them, I mean, the guild died. Everybody left. A bunch of us went to City of Heroes, which was a level and class-based game, but it's not just that they changed the game to something you didn't like, they also destroyed what you loved, right? And that's incredibly upsetting to people who are fans of something. And I remember the one developer saying they begged, they tried to get Sony not to make this change. Do put out a different game with this. No, we're going to do this with Star Wars Galaxies. We should have a lot more, be able to make a lot more money than we've been making, and they lost money, and the game was in maintenance mode for years. And then when Star Wars: The Old Republic came out, they just terminated it. But it was limping along for years with an audience of 50,000, and they never got the big audience they wanted. So this is the risk, right? It's possible that D&D 6th edition, likely D&D 6th edition will make a huge splash. All the the non-typical gamers will, who are the theater kids and all the other people who want to play D&D for improv rather than as a pseudo war game, will go and buy it. But are they going to stick with it? Are they going to keep playing it? I mean, we know from Wizards of the Coast data that most game groups don't last more than 6 sessions. So are these people going to get frustrated when they spend hundreds of dollars on books? They start a game group, they run for 6 sessions, it collapses, and now they've spent all this money and they got nothing to show for it, and they got to get a new game group started. How many times are you going to do that before you just get frustrated and give up? So I don't know. I mean, I think they're taking a risk, but I understand why they're taking it. And this is what I tried to say to him. This is why I'm playing a niche game, Savage Worlds. Right? Those guys are a niche game. They're not trying to appeal. Not that they don't want to make sales, but they've got their niche, and what they're trying to do is sell us stuff. Like they've got me. I'm going to spend 150 bucks on Pine box set and 2 or 3 dice sets from them, and try to get my nephews into Savage Worlds, right? And I bought the Holler box set, and I bought the Pathfinder Core box set, and I've ordered the Night Train box set, and I've got all the Deadlands books, and I've got Horror Companion and Fantasy Companion, and I'm probably going to get Savage Companion when it comes out, although I didn't go into the Kickstarter for that one. Um, and I've got Deadlands Lost Colony, which is even another type of a game which I wish I could get my friends into, but they don't have a virtual tabletop for it. So there's no good way to play it on the virtual tabletop without that. So I mean, like they've got me hooked. They realize we need a small number of people who buy everything rather than a large number of people who just buy a few things. And yeah, they have a dedicated audience, and they're making enough money to stay in business and pay each other and make salaries and pay rent and pay for kids' college tuition and stuff. And they feel like that's all they need because they're not a big corporation. They don't have stockholders, and they don't have a CEO making $5 million a year or whatever that they need to pay a $10 million incentive bonus to, et cetera, et cetera. They don't need to say we just want a big amount of money for this quarter so that we can put it on our stock report. They're a small privately held company. They can do what they want, right? And yeah, I'm trying to stick with people like that rather than the big giant corporations, because the big giant corporations are going to try to appeal to a wider general audience, and that appeal dilutes the thing that I liked about whatever the game is, right, or whatever the property is. That's one of the things I've learned. We talked about this before, and thank you. A couple people have posted some indie games. It is right now, June 23rd, as I film this. It'll probably be the 24th or 25th when I post it. There is supposedly a Steam sale coming June 27th. Please keep an eye on the comments section. If you know some indie games, put them down there. Indie only. I mean, the other games are fine, but I really want to support indie developers, and I'm going to take a look during the Steam sale and see and look into some of the games that were suggested and see what I can get on Steam on sale that are indie games, because I want to support these indie developers. They're much more likely to stick to the original vision of their game, and much less likely to dilute it for general audiences to try and get 10 times as many people buying a diluted version of the game. And so yeah, keep leaving those indie suggestions. Also for books, indie published fantasy, western, horror, let me know. I can't read everything, obviously, but I'm trying to go more the indie route because I want to support that. So anyway, keep posting the ideas, and I'll keep the list. I've got a list. in Obsidian. I'm keeping a list. I can't buy everything, right? And I can't play everything all at once, but I will keep a list, and I'll let you know, guys, here if I really like something, and uh, keep posting in the comments. So that's it for today. Until next time, I'm Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.